Is this on? There we go. All right, well, hello and welcome to everyone who's joining us here in the chambers this evening. I'd like to call this business meeting of the Kalamazoo City Commission to order for Wednesday, July 11th, an unusual day for us to, 5th. Thank you, Commissioner Hess. Already beginning to lose track of time here. So anyway, it's an unusual meeting night for us, but it is our first business meeting in July. And the first order of business is the roll call. Clerk Shelby, please.
Commissioner Decker.
Present.
Commissioner Hess.
Present.
Commissioner Hoffman. Commissioner Juarez. Commissioner Pradel.
Present.
Vice Mayor Cooney.
Present.
Mayor Anderson.
Here. Thank you, Clerk Morris. I appreciate it. I would like to have a motion to excuse Commissioner Juarez and Commissioner Hoffman, please.
Moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Decker,
Support.
supported by Commissioner Hess. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you. Motion passes. So we are blessed this evening to have for our opening ceremony Pastor Jake Lehman from Trinity Lutheran Church. And I'm going to ask Pastor Lehman to come up and for all of us to stand while he provides us an invocation and then remain standing while we say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor.
As we gather in this place, we are reminded that, like us, your Son Jesus lived within the structures of society and government, even as he spoke truth to those in power and challenged systems of oppression. Empower us to be courageous disciples and responsible citizens. Grant that our life in the public realm may follow his example and be grounded in love for our neighbors, care for the most vulnerable in our midst, and respect for the common life we share. Especially, Lord, we pray for our public servants who serve on this commission, that they do their work in a spirit of wisdom, charity, and justice. Inspire them to use their authority to serve faithfully and to promote our common life as members of this wonderful and diverse community. We ask these things in the name of Christ. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just before we move on here to the rest of our agenda, I just like to recognize the fact that we have our new city attorney with us here this evening. Pleasure to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here, Mayor.
All right, I appreciate that. And we have our Chief Operations Officer, correct, who is sitting in the spot where our City Manager, Jim Ritzma, usually resides, and he's out of town. So nice to have you up here with us as well. Now we are at the point on our agenda where we adopt the formal agenda. Commissioners, is there any item on G, the consent agenda, you would like to have moved to H, the regular agenda? Vice Mayor Cooney.
Yes, I would like to move G1.
G1, okay. Thank you, Commissioner Cooney. And Commissioner Pradel.
Mr. Mayor, I was wondering if the commission would be agreeable to postponing G14. There were quite a few minutes to go through, and there were a couple items that I think I would like to recommend change, but it just was a little bit rushed to get through all those.
Thank you, Commissioner Pradel. Attorney Leal, any particular action we need to take as far as postponing the minutes?
There's two ways to do it. It's just the mayor's action going forward, but in this case, since you're wanting to move to another meeting, it would be a motion and a second to postpone this item to the next regular meeting. So,
okay.
Would now be the appropriate time to motion.
I think so, since would you agree?
Yes. Motion to postpone G14 to our next business meeting.
Support.
Okay. And support. Any discussion on that motion? Do we need a roll call on that motion?
Yes.
Clerk Moss, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Hess.
Yes.
Commissioner Pradel.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cooney.
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Decker.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did not see you come in. Commissioner Juarez.
Thank you, Commissioners. The motion passes. We will postpone the approval of the minutes. Any other changes from Commission? Is there anyone here in the chambers that would like to move an item from G, the consent agenda, to H, the regular agenda? Request to move item G9 to the regular agenda. All right, we'll move forward with our modified agenda. Next is communications. Chief Operations Officer.
Thank you, Mayor. As we all know, Kalamazoo has a lot of exciting things going on this summer. Just wanted to highlight a couple of them. The Parks and Recreation Outdoor Cinema Series is underway. The next event is going to be Friday, July 14th, Air Bud at Fairmont Park. The event's from 6 to 10, in addition to a movie, which is a great one if you haven't seen it. They're partnering with SPCA. There'll be adoptable animals, there'll be a demonstration obstacle course, local vendors, and a photo booth. Also want to acknowledge Black Arts Fest is celebrating 37 years. The festival this Saturday in Bronson Park, July 8th from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Live performances and food, visual arts, and vendors will be at Bronson Park. Lastly, just wanted to draw attention to the ongoing process to update our zoning code. This has been work that we've been talking about since the spring. There's been extensive opportunities for input. We've had several revisions that have gone forward. And on the Imagine Kalamazoo project page, you can see updates, you can see a presentation that was recently given. We're actually going to spend our next Committee of the Whole meeting on the 17th to focus on those zoning updates. The tentative timeline is to have that go before the Planning Commission in August. There'll be additional opportunity for input in August as well. And then we anticipate potentially bringing that forward to Commission in October, but that's going to be conditioned on how things go between now and then. So there are many more opportunities for comment. The current version, opportunities are open until this Friday, July 7th. Thank you.
Thank you very much, COO Lamb. I appreciate that. Next on our agenda is an opportunity for public comments. So in order to make a public comment, if you would like at this business meeting, you can come forward to the podium. You'll have 3 minutes. There's a timer in front you can see. And please give us your name and whether you live in a city. And just a reminder, this is not a time when we have exchange and dialogue. This is a time when it's your opportunity to express anything, a topic of interest here in our business meeting. And also, as a further reminder, thank you for being patient, you can call in and make public comments as well. In order to do that, you would call 888-382-9556. And you have the opportunity to do that after anyone who's here in the chambers has made their comments. Thank you. Go ahead.
My name is Marty Weber. I'm representing Only Alien Cannabis Company. We're the micro grow that's going out on KL Avenue. I regret I wasn't able to make the last 2 meetings. I had foot surgery and it was not allowing me to leave the house. So, but I do want to thank everybody for adopting that amendment for a Class A and quickly describe what that did for us. The micro business allowed you 150 plants. You had to process everything in-house. You couldn't purchase outside of the business. So everything had to be made from your flower. What that limits you to is 150 plants. While it sounds like a lot, when you're making a distillate or anything like that for gummies and that type of thing, it does not leave very much bud to sell for pre-rolls or bud to smoke. So it bumped up our plant count. It also allowed us the possibility to purchase in product from vendors to fill the retail space, and that allows us to generate income for the first 10 weeks because there's a growing process, curing process, packaging and all that, and that takes time in the beginning. So now with those 10 weeks, we are able to purchase in product and sell that and pay our bills. We are definitely not a multi-million-dollar company. I was born and raised in Kalamazoo, grew up on Reed Street, Luella, Burdick, in that area. I remember times when our lights was camping light in the living room because we didn't have money for power, borrowing water from the neighbor to flush a toilet, you know. So I've come from pretty low to get to where I'm at. So I know I don't meet your target demographic for the social equity, but I do meet a demographic for that social equity as well. And I'm more than willing to open up to any associations or anything that want to do a mentorship program, offer my viewpoints on where I was able to get to opening up a micro grow myself, coming from where I came. So I'm more than willing to do that. We are currently finishing up construction. It's been 4 of us in there. We gutted Great Lakes Shipping Company, and we built it ourselves, just four of the owners, because we don't have the money to do that. But we put in the work. We've been there a year and a half. We've made it what it is right now. We're very close to opening. And again, thank you for. I just wanted to introduce myself. I wasn't able to make the other meetings. I know there was concerns about big money coming in and just stepping on everybody. That's not our intention at all. We are here to help. I grew up in Kalamazoo. I do everything I can.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Anyone else in the chambers who would like to make a comment this evening? Yes, Mr. Harris.
Yeah, how y'all doing?
Very well. Good to have you here.
Appreciate y'all having us in tonight. I just came to make a public announcement comment to you all and the city of Kalamazoo that Peace During War and Friends would like to present event we like to throw at Interfaith Homes called Keeping the Faith in Interfaith. And the idea behind this and bring to y'all tonight is just to ask for sponsorship. I would like to bring some of the best bouncy houses and water activities I can for the young kids in the community, just to cater to them. A lot of events the city had are awesome. They super great. I love what Kalamazoo is doing, unifying in a whole with everybody working and doing what they can, especially with gun violence being the way it is. We're just trying to do something that's very resourceful in the neighborhood for the younger kids who may not have transportation and everything to get to all these other events. And we just want to turn it up, bringing education. So if anybody want to come and promote education, that too. Sexual awareness, everything. Gun violence awareness, everything. So we just wanted to come and announce that and ask you all if you could sponsor us or help with sponsorship or just get the word out there so we can get with individuals who just want to put forth something positive towards the city. It's all fun, it's all exciting, you know, and we just want it to be informative as well as educational and just have a great time. I brought alongside it with me Jonathan Thomas and Shelby. They both be in the neighborhood as well, and we just canvassing, and I'm just trying to reach those that are actually involved in a lot of things and might need a little grooming, a little etiquette, and just turn them on to it, build relationships. I feel like relationships are better than money, and I've got quite a long way with no money, so I just came here today to just ask for sponsorship for any of you guys or any individuals that you guys may be tied to that have a heart for building in the community just like this. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you very much. Did you have a date in mind? I just don't know if you want to mention that.
July 24th.
July 24th.
5:30 to 8:30 p.m. Yes, I do. And I also have a flyer for Change of Status, which I'm hosting at UA.
Thank you. If you want to give a copy of the clerk over here, that'd be great. She'll get them passed out. Thanks again, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else in the chambers that would like to speak this evening?
Hello. My name's Benjamin. I got an email stating that with a copy of a citation, somebody got a criminal citation for sitting on a park bench in one of the parks. And I logged on Facebook and I saw that some of these posts have been shared by influential people in the community quite a bit, making it around town. And every single response was like very negative towards the city. Nothing, I haven't seen a single comment that was like, yeah, city, get those homeless out of our parks. They're gross. I haven't seen one yet. And I went to the court to try and get more information. And I ended up having to talk to the court administrator because the staff were just like, no, you're not allowed to know anything. You know how it is, Ben Stanley. So I went and I tried to go and talk to Patrick today. I sent a couple emails and I was just kind of shut down. Sorry, my mom's calling me. And they have made it so you can't see through their door anymore. Now they have like an intercom. You can't even get into the park's lobby anymore. And so I went around and I was knocking on, I thought it was Patrick's window, but it was Ashton's window. And Patrick screaming at me. I have never heard, like my mom hasn't even screamed at me like that before. And I've pissed my mom off, believe me. He was screaming at me. And I don't know what to do about that. If he was a cop, he wouldn't be carrying a gun anymore. You got to control your emotions, right? I don't know. I was just trying to address people getting citations for charging their phone in the parks, sitting on raised services. I know a cop offered to give me a citation in 2019 when I was running for city commissioner for sitting on a park bench because it was considered resting. Not allowed to lie down or rest. And I was like, what is a park bench for? And now it's actually happening. Someone has court tomorrow, someone else on the 12th. It's just, I mean, Don, come on. What's going on, man? A couple people posted on Facebook, Don Cooney, what's going on? They tagged you, but I don't think you've responded yet. You did? Okay. There's got to be a better way. Thanks.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Is there anyone else in the chambers that would like to make a comment this evening? Seeing no one, Deputy City Manager, now's the opportunity. You can come up here to the... Okay. Thanks. Deputy City Manager Chamberlain, has anybody called in to make a comment for this evening?
We'll go ahead and check. Hi, go ahead. You're live with the Kalamazoo City Commission.
Hi, it's Tina McClinton again. Now you're building in a floodplain again. You're building in the bowl of Kalamazoo, as James Baker says it, the lowest point of Kalamazoo, to purposely flood the homeowners that live here out purposely. Why would you do that to your homeowners? Since you love Kalamazoo so much, why would you purposely hurt people or knock them down more by flooding their homes out more? Why would you flood their backyards out? We already flood on Lake, Stockbridge, John, Park, Crosstown. I can name a whole bunch of streets. Vine. And now you're going to take away our last green space in Southtown neighborhood. I know, Mr. Anderson, you've been trying to do this for 6 years now, and I've been fighting you every step of the way. And I also found out a lot of stuff, that you are the president of Lyft, and so is Lisa Wilcott. And Lockhart Management is the one destroying our last green space to build. And Lockhart Management is Ellen Lockhart Sylvester, who is on the Natural Features Protection. Wow, all conflict of interest. Why would you purposely flood poor homeowners out? Why would you let Lockhart Management and Lyft build in a floodplain? I don't understand. And then when we asked, did they look anywhere else, they said no. But yet, the DHS building is right across the street, a big, huge parking lot that the city owns. Why would you flood us out? And then we found out from Lisa Wilcott, too, that the city told her that they can't put the sanitary sewer line on Stockbridge because it's failing. It's overwhelmed. It won't take the extra sewage. But yet you're going to run it to Lake Street that is already overwhelmed. And when we flood, we get your storm sewer backups. Why would you make all this worse for us? I don't understand. Why you keep trying to flood us out more? I mean, we are humans. We work hard for our homes. We've owned our homes over 30 years, and now you're going to just destroy them because you're building in a floodplain. When you have a DHS parking lot right across the street, 322 Stockbridge, you could put your 55-car parking lot there. Why would you put some more cement in a floodplain? And why would you change the NFP? Why would Alan Sylvester help them change the NFP to take away 24-inch trees in a floodplain when they were supposed to be protected by the NFP? Because
Hi, you're live with the Kalamazoo City Commission. Go ahead with your comments.
The OVA report was an investigation done by an independent group from Southern California after KDPS failed the community in many ways during the George Floyd murder protest and the Proud Boys March in Kalamazoo. I'm going to quote from the section called Community Input City Leadership. Many people commented to us about the effectiveness of leadership through the events of last summer, citing broad concerns about transparency and accountability. Many commented that the summer's events and the city's communication surrounding them in general created a sense of deception or mistrust. A heightened a sense of disconnect between the community, public safety, and government. Specific comments on this subject frequently center on concerns about the circumstances surrounding the departure of the then chief. For all of their distinctive experiences and opinions, all of those who reached out to us clearly shared a deep commitment to the city and a hope that the information they provided would assist in our efforts to provide a constructive report. This public input framed our detailed review of the events of the past summer and reinforced the impact of the city and department's responses. To this day, we continue to cite broad concerns about transparency and accountability from city leadership, especially this board. We see this pattern again and again, especially when it comes to the houseless community and the environmental crisis. The OI report is pretty damning, and so far only superficial BS changes have been written down and policies updated, but no tangible, noticeable changes. Instead, KDPS can now surveillance in real time downtown and criminalize houseless people more frequently, violating constitutional rights. They have nowhere else to do life-sustaining activities. You'll just sit there and ignore it with the systemic issues or sit on racist boards like Commissioner Prado, who was part of the Lincoln Memorial Committee when the commission voted. What a slap in the face to Native people in Kalamazoo, honoring a murderer, a colonizer who committed genocide. Sounds like Kalamazoo. And I continue to quote the OIR report. Interestingly, though, the protest activity that dominated those days were itself a source of collateral layers of concern and criticism. Not only was police violence central to the narrative of unacceptable racial inequality that lay at the heart of the protests, but the police response to those protests either reinforced existing divisions or produced new ones. That was the case in Kalamazoo, and the events last year, the 2021, as they unfolded in the city, eventually gave rise to the review project that produced this report. So KDPS response during these two major events reinforced existing divisions of racism and police violence and produced new divisions as people.
That was the last caller.
Thank you very much, Deputy City Manager Chamberlain. And I wanted to thank everyone who took the time and made the effort to participate in the public comment portion of our meeting this evening. Next is the consent agenda. COO Lamb.
Thank you. Approval of the purchase of one bucket truck from Altec Industries Incorporated in the amount of $189,643. Approve a contract with Davis Construction Incorporated for the replacement and reconstruction of Shippers Lane Culvert in the amount of $138,872.50. Approval of a professional service agreement with OHM Advisors for construction engineering services related to the Inkster Bridge construction work through MDOT contract number 235150 for a not-to-exceed cost of $278,000. Approval of a contract with Pipeline Management Company for the 2023 Catch Basin Cleaning Program in the amount of $112,500. Acceptance of a grant from Region 5 Homeland Security in the amount of $34,440 for the purchase of a Gemini chemical identification analyzer. Approval of the sole source purchase of a Gemini chemical identification analyzer from Thermo Scientific for the Kalamazoo County Hazardous Materials Response Team in the amount of $120,255. Adoption of a resolution approving an Act 381 brownfield plan for the redevelopment project at 215 East Michigan Avenue. Approval of KDPS Deputy Chief Matt Huber's election to enter the Deferred Retirement Option Plan. Approval and acceptance of an easement agreement with the City of Parchment for the continued installation and operation of water pressure reducing Station 44. Approval and acceptance of an easement agreement with Valley Vision Construction and Development for water main that will be installed as a part of the 2023 Drinking Water State Revolving Fund Water System Upgrades Project. An approval of an agreement for the sale of 710 North Edward Street to Hazel L. Cook, owner of 714 North Edward Street, for the sale price of $150.
Thank you, COO Lamb. Commissioners, the requested action is a motion to approve items 2 through 8 and 10 through 13 and authorize the city manager to sign all related documents on behalf of the city. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Pradel,
Support.
supported by Commissioner Hess. Clerk Moss, please call the roll.
Commissioner Juarez,
Yes.
Commissioner Pradel,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cooney,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Decker,
Yes.
Commissioner Hess.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioners, items on the consent agenda are approved. COO Lamb, regular agenda.
Yes, item H1, approval of a new contract with the United Way of South Central Michigan, formerly the United Way of the Battle Creek and Kalamazoo region, to adjust funding sources for the final year of the original 3-year business development agreement. We are joined tonight by Molly Trueblood. She is the Associate Director of Community Impact for Small Business at United Way, and Antonio Mitchell, Director of Community Planning Economic Development, is also here to field questions.
Welcome, Director Mitchell. Nice to have you here.
Good evening, everyone. Happy belated 4th to everyone. Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, new City Attorney, for having us this evening. Pretty much we're going to have United Way give a report on the item number 1 and answer questions, and then I'll close it out with some additional comments on the program and other programming we're doing in economic development that I think is significant that you know about, especially with the numbers and data that we have. So I'll let Molly come on up.
Thank you. Welcome. Nice to have you here.
Nice to be back. Thank you, Mayor Anderson, Vice Mayor Cooney, Commissioners, and City staff. Great to be with you again. I think my slides will show up in a minute, but I think they're in your packet too. Passing around a couple of handouts on our program impacts that we'll cover. So we'll get to the slide. Oh, there it is. Thanks. So I'm going to give an overview and then some background on the programs, as well as get into some specific impacts that we've been making. So just a quick overview of the 3 programs that we have at United Way in partnership with the city. So we first started with the Small Business Loan Program. That was the first program in April 2020. That serves small businesses in the city with low interest loans for 3 years. And we're doing well in that. The second program we started in partnership with the city was the Micro Enterprise Grant Program, and those are $5,000 grants to really the smallest businesses in the city. And then we also have a reimbursement program called the Health Protection Grant, which is a separate contract with the city, and it's HUD funding. So that's not going to be a focus of our presentation today. But we do have similar requirements for all of our programs, such as being operational in the city for at least a year, being current on taxes, and those kinds of things. Oh, sorry, that's not the right one. There you go. So we have been in partnership with the city as well as the Foundation for Excellence since spring of 2020. All of our programs were really started in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. After we were able to very quickly deploy some resources in response to that crisis, we heard a lot of community feedback that this is a great program and it needs to continue. So we worked gratefully with CPED and city staff to develop a contract for 3 years to deliver the microenterprise grant and the loan programs. So we have been in that partnership since 2021, and this is our 3rd year. Our partnership does allow us, both of us, to focus on equity in a way that I think is pretty innovative. So we are, in addition to providing COVID relief, able to prioritize underserved business owners, people who have historically not gotten served by financing institutions, as well as maybe not other resources that have been available. So we do prioritize, and that means lift up in our review process, folks who identify as Black, Indigenous, people of color, or I might say BIPOC, as well as women owners and folks operating in the SBK neighborhoods. The review process, one of our priorities is to be very transparent and accountable to our review process, both with the city and the businesses we work with. So we try to be very thorough in our reviews, as well as work with a committee that we call the Small Business Cabinet. Staff will review and assist business owners in the applications, and then we really rely on the Small Business Cabinet to make the final approvals of the loans and grants, and the city staff does have a seat on that cabinet. Keep forgetting it's that one. So this slide just shows an overall impact since the inception of each program, how many businesses we've been able to serve in each program, as well as the total dollar amount put out in the community. I'll just point out the last total number is over $4 million in funding has been distributed since April 2020, and we've been able to serve 525 unique businesses in the city. I'm pretty proud of that. And what I've passed out are what we call dashboards. They're really just further breakdowns of the data by our priority criteria, so the demographics as well as location of the businesses. And then we do also publish the business names. Those are updated very regularly, so they're always on our website for people to check out and make sure we're doing a good job. I'll drill down a little bit more into the individual programs. So we currently have about 33 active loans in our program. The average loan size is around $20,000. We've had, thankfully, 71 loans pay off. A lot of our original loans from April and May of 2020 were paid off this year. So we also have a revolving loan fund pool now that we're working to develop policies so we can relend that money back out in the community. We also have had some defaults. So our program is special in taking account of the folks we're trying to serve. We don't check a credit score, so it's becomes a grant to them if they have to default. But I just wanted to point that out, that is an indicator to me that folks are still struggling. I've seen a lot more in the last 6 months than I have before then. So it shows me that people are still struggling to operate in this economy. We're also in the middle of a microenterprise grant. I might say KMEG. I apologize for the acronyms, but you know how it is. We just finished an application period for the spring round of microenterprise grants. This year we were able to expand the program countywide, and so we've leveraged an additional grant from Kalamazoo County, ARPA funding for 60 grants to go to county businesses who are not in the city. And we have also selected 60 businesses that are conditionally approved for the city grants. So those folks have gotten notice but not final approval yet. We're starting to disperse the county funds, but we're waiting on some final approval from you tonight of an additional funding source for the city grants. And I like to bring this slide up to remind me and all of us that these are real people that we're serving. And I'm really proud to have served all of these businesses that are on the slide. I think they're doing really great work in Kalamazoo. And I hope to be able to continue to serve more businesses. Just a couple next steps on what United Way is committed to in the future. So we are committed to delivering these responsive and community-driven programs into the foreseeable future. Responsive means that we frequently do surveys, we sometimes do focus groups, and we always solicit direct feedback from the businesses we work with to make sure we're continuously improving. I know there's room for improvement in both of the programs I've mentioned today, but that'll be another time. We also collect a lot of data on businesses that are in the city of Kalamazoo, their location, their owner, et cetera. And it is a shared priority of both the CPED department and United Way to continue finding additional data points where we can analyze the effect on ALICE households. You probably heard United Way talk about ALICE ad nauseum, but it means asset limited, income constrained, and employed. So we have been finding through additional questions that we are serving a lot of ALICE households, but we want to find more specific metrics to see how we're impacting those households in the future. And finally, as I've mentioned with the defaults as well as the additional grant money that we've brought in recently, we do see there's a continued financial need in the ecosystem. There's still businesses that we haven't been able to serve, and we know there's a need. We know they're struggling. So we would love to continue developing and providing these programs. And I will say thank you and pass it back to Antonio to explain a little bit more about our partnership.
Thank you very much.
Would you like to ask her questions now or wait till I'm done?
We can wait till you're done. That's fine.
Okay, I'm not going to take that long. Okay. So the importance of what we're looking at is to continue the existing program for funding for this program going forward. As was stated, this has opened the opportunity for United Way to expand the program. As Molly stated, they received money from the county to expand the program to countywide beyond the city limits. That has been an issue for the last 3 years, that it was only businesses in the city limits that could take advantage of this opportunity. United Way has done a great job of expanding that. And the importance of this program and the impact of it and what we've been doing in collaboration with them has been significant, mainly because we have one set of funding of working with businesses, our business development funds, which is totally different than this set of funding. So there's two components working hand in hand, side by side with United Way and working with businesses. We're focusing more on education, technology, training components of working with businesses, and they're focusing on more of the financial opportunities of assisting businesses to grow. So in the case of like their KMEG micro grant, that can fund your business $5,000 to do anything you need for your business, right? In the case of our $5,000, which is technical assistance grant, it has to focus on technical assistance components. It could be training, it could be equipment, it could be working with an accountant, an attorney. It's more of that educational component to build the business, and specifically. So it has a little bit more, as they say, borders around what that money can be used for. Now, the key factor, though, which we created, though, was the opportunity for businesses to really tap into, if they want, $5,000 a year from city funding, okay? So if they want, meaning they could go the route of, I'm gonna go get some technical assistance from the city this year, and I'm going next year to the micro business program and get $5,000. Because you have to skip a year. You can't come back year after year for us or them. You have to skip a year. Or you can go, I'm gonna go to United Way, I'm gonna go to city this year, and I'm gonna get $10,000. And I'm gonna focus some money on this, and I'm gonna focus some money on this. Understanding I'm gonna have to wait 2 years to come back again for both of them. What we've been recommending, I said you need to, and this is what we're trying to get them to work with United Way, the Can Do Kitchen, Western, your plan needs to utilize how you're gonna implement these dollars for your business. You got free money, how are you gonna make as they say, this investment to multiply. You know, how are you going to make these things work for your business to grow? So what does that mean? What that means in the combination between United Way and us, over that pretty much 3-year time period, we have pretty much worked with almost 900 different businesses in the city of Kalamazoo, in particular, with a combination. As you can see, there are 525. We have 339. All right. So we're almost 900 businesses. And also have to keep in mind, and we'll get you more data. I'm trying to do a nice little report at the end of this year, since I got a new staff person. We started our program in Business Development Fund 2 years before we started working with United Way. So we have 2 years beyond that we have data that we can pull all together that will show we've probably worked with over 1,000 different businesses in the city of Kalamazoo. So that is significant for what we've been doing. Another key factor, as everyone knows, is Shared Prosperity Kalamazoo, our 3 neighborhoods, our core neighborhoods, East Side, Edison, and North Side. 44% of our funding, in particular from the city, from our Business Development Fund, has gone into those neighborhoods. As Molly pointed out, you can literally go daily, monthly, and look at their data because they have an ongoing data information that they share on their websites. And that was implemented years ago to show transparency to the public and to the commission and mayors to understand where was this money going and how it was being affected. Molly provided that data report as well to tonight that you have in your hands that you also and the public can see on their website. Molly brings up BIPOC, which is Black, Indigenous, and People of Color initiative. That was important for us as a city to really home in on that population because that's a strong population in our core neighborhoods. And in the case of the city, 68% of our funding has gone into those 3 neighborhoods. And 37% of that has gone towards African Americans, and 40% has gone for women in those neighborhoods. And Molly has data in her report also showing that impact. So in dollars and cents, what does that mean over the last couple of years? So pretty much in the case of the city, in our Business Development Fund, we've put out $2.3 million, and United Way has put out 4.2 and some change, totaling $6.5 million in this time period into economic development and incentives for the city of Kalamazoo and business development. The significance of this is that we, in economic development in the city, have seen some real good feedback from the community on what we're doing to assist small businesses and micro businesses in the city of Kalamazoo. One thing I think I pointed out at another meeting in the past is that people used to ask me literally how many minority businesses you got. You know, what are you doing with minority businesses? As I tell people, I got receipts now. I got receipts with numbers. I got receipts with millions of dollars that show not only what we're doing, how we're doing it, and literally the impact that we're doing it. We have more money that we have approved for this year. This is one pot of dollars that will assist United Way to continue their program, and hopefully we'll be back next year trying to assist them to do more and us to do more going forward. We hope that the SPK initiative of equity, growth and development and investment in the community, this will have a significant impact on these families. Like Molly pointed out, we are having an effect on the Alice population. Commissioner Cooney knows that's real passion for me because the Alice population is made up of 85% of single mothers raising families. And I was raised by a single mom and my grandmother for a period of my life. And so it's personal to me to make sure that we're trying to assist this population to be successful, raising their family and have opportunities just like everyone else. So with that, myself and Molly will take any questions, but I thank you for taking into consideration this initiative that we're continuing here in the city of Kalamazoo through CPAD and United Way.
Thank you so much, Director Mitchell. Questions from Commissioner Hess?
Thank you for that presentation, Director Mitchell and Molly. Appreciate you being here. Just a few things. First of all, how do you reach folks, or do they just know to come to you? What is out there so that folks can learn about these programs?
Thank you for the question, Commissioner Hess. On United Way's part, we do a marketing plan before each spring and fall round of the grants to promote that they're open. That is the most popular program, as you can imagine. The loans are available anytime, so it's more word of mouth and referrals. But we do put together social media, flyers, update our website. This year I've been able to do some neighborhood events at the north side, as well as Edison neighborhood, to do some personal outreach as well. We also do office hours during the application period, so I provide them with direct assistance. One time they can set an appointment every week as well. If there's anything more specific you'd like to know, please let me know.
No, that's wonderful outreach. Thank you. And so do you have a percentage of how many of these are home-based businesses and how many are actual in brick and mortar?
Question. I don't think I do. I could dig into that. A lot of times I would say my guess is, and this is anecdotal, okay, I don't have data on it. My guess is between 60 and 75% of the folks that I work with are home-based. And that is by looking at the address they register on their application compared to the one that's on their their business document. So we need an LLC, a DBA, something like that. Almost all the time they put their home address. It's rare that they have a storefront location, I think. The 75 is probably the most highest I would go without an analysis.
Great, I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Other questions, commissioners? Commissioner Decker.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just going to follow up on a question that Commissioner Hess asked. When you say that 65%, a little bit more, are home-based businesses, what do you guys do to encourage individuals, businesses, once they get to a certain point, to become a brick and mortar, to take that step? Do you help walk them through that, or do you guys have those conversations?
Sounds like you might have experience in this, Commissioner Decker. I would say the nature of the program is that either home-based businesses or relatively new businesses, the only eligibility requirement in terms of operations is that you be operating a year. So I do get a lot of people who are fresh in their entrepreneurial journey. And one of our biggest priorities is to refer them to community partners and make sure they're using the available services. But as I think I mentioned in the last meeting, I provide that service as well. So it has been in some cases up to me to contact city and ask who the right contact is. Currently, we are working with the Community Foundation to rebuild kind of a solid network of the service providers in Kalamazoo to try to strengthen our racial equity focus in small business development, but really also improve those referrals so people can get the services they need. So I have background in economic development and small business assistance, so I kind of know the high-level things to send them to, but we do rely on community partners for that a lot too.
Thank you.
All right, so just to continue answering that question, we as a city will be working with Can Do Kalamazoo with new incubator. It'll be the space behind Walnut and Park Coffee. That building there, it will be the new incubator. Hopefully they'll be open this fall, and we'll have office hours there as well. Molly will hopefully have office hours, so we're going to try to pull in some additional services. But to go further more into your question is, we're hopefully going to be working with them to have very affordable office space there, so businesses can have that, and the incubators for that, to have that first leap out into the world with something that's more affordable, but also the supportive services around them to assist them before they jump out into that brick and mortar. We hope that will assist businesses to transition out of their space, but We also want to assist some of home-based businesses to stay home-based business and help them create the space in their house for that initiative as well. And my wife and us have a home-based business, and it's been a home-based business for 10 years. And sorry to say, she's not going anyplace. She is staying in the house. So we want to hopefully help expand some home-based businesses there at their locations, but the ones that want to go out, we want to help them take baby steps with going into an incubator if possible before they sign a big long-term lease, and then transition them out into the community.
Thank you, Director Mitchell. So when you talk about spaces for entrepreneurs, incubator spaces, just on the top of your head, can you name off a few that we have that are here within the city?
We have affordable spaces. We have space in my building, office space that's, I guess, off-platform type spaces where you can share space. Cemetery Incubator at 240 North Rose Street, second floor, has space. But no, Black Wall Street is working on space, and we've worked with them and SCORE and all of them to identify affordable space. The key is there's right now not a lack of office space in the city. It's just really the question of the affordability of the space is the issue. But there's spaces out there. It's just a question of affordability.
Thank you for that. Because yeah, I know there are some organizations that are definitely working on. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I just want to add a little bit extra info. I don't know of additional space, but if you've heard of Startup Kalamazoo, a guy named Carl Brown has recently restarted that and is doing monthly pitches. And Black Wall Street also has the beta program, Black Entrepreneurship Training Academy. I also refer people to Southwest Michigan First a lot. They have something called First Path, which is really about developing the business idea. So, and not exactly an incubator, but resources to help folks get started. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Decker. Vice Mayor Cooney?
Well, I don't know. I just want to say I think this is wonderful, and I'm glad that 40% of the people that you're helping are in the impacted areas. I think it's very creative. I love the idea of surrounding people with the supports that they need. And I like the partnership. The partnership is great. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Cooney. Questions? Commissioner Pradel?
Sure. Thank you both for being here tonight. I was just wondering, you mentioned the county is allocating some dollars towards this work as well for more county-wide work. Are those dollars excluded from being served in the city of Kalamazoo?
Yes, yes, they are.
Okay.
We are exclusively serving businesses outside of the city with those Kalamazoo County dollars.
Okay, that's awesome. And the other thing I was going to ask you as well is for the defaulting businesses, you mentioned there are some of those defaulting businesses. Do you typically have a sense that it's getting to that point where, you know, there's some of the supports that you mentioned that you're able to leverage those and help those businesses when it's looking like things might be getting a little bit bleak? Or I'm just curious to hear.
Yes, yes. So usually through the application process, I develop a relationship with the business owner. And particularly in the loan program, I find it important to touch base with them. And so if I do that proactively, I'll find it's reciprocated. And so I do get people reaching out in advance that they are having trouble paying. We have developed some policies for deferment and partial payments to give some relief to that. We very rarely can extend the term, but it's not something we can offer really regularly. But yeah, I'll get calls and emails about that. The other part, we did develop a default policy to trigger when people would be automatically defaulted. If I don't hear from them for more than 2 months, we would automatically default it. But that's not very common.
Yeah. I was curious as well, you know, just from your experience now that you have a few years under your belt with this, you know, if there's any major learnings, just kind of things that major things that are.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity. Yeah, I think that I try to approach each business owner as a unique individual, and I know that their business is tightly linked with their personhood, even if we try to pretend it's not. So respect for the person is primary for me, just how I engage with the person. I think that our explicit priorities allow me to do that. Our small business cabinet has really been a backbone for helping me develop policies, for setting priorities, and for finding new ways to reach people. They have recommended that we shorten our initial deferment of the loan program from 6 months to 3 months, perhaps in the next iteration of that when we open the revolving loan fund. That being, as I mentioned, things change a lot in 6 months, and so that does sometimes come up unexpectedly. The other thing is, I think what I mentioned in September is that a lot of these loan programs are brought along with technical assistance. So particularly how to manage finances of your business, how to keep them separate, who to go to in our community for help. So I think we've talked about setting aside some funding to be able to support a business owner who wants a loan or has a loan to get that support kind of along the technical assistance line. Learnings in terms of the grant, I'll have to get back to you on that one. But I think the one that's coming to mind is that there's way more need for the program than I would have even guessed. And I guess that there's about 3,000 businesses in the city, and we've served 500 of them, 900 of them. There's a lot more that we haven't served. So yeah, I'll just close by saying that I'm continuously impressed by the businesses that people run and create and just their tenacity to do that.
Yeah. And then Leslie, I was going to ask you, United Way has grown in the last year. You now represent, I think, 6 counties, if I'm counting correctly. And I was just curious, when you compare counties, what does this program look like comparably to other counties? Are we a leader in this? Are we comparable? Or
in terms of our 6 counties that we serve as United Way of South Central Michigan, I'm not aware of other programs through a United Way that are doing this amount of service. I know Michigan Women Forward is a regional lender out of Grand Rapids that's been in our area, as well as Northern Initiatives, and they've been doing a lot. Countywide, the 6 counties, I'm just not aware enough. But we have seen some interest in Jackson County as well as other counties about replicating this program. So I would say at least it's probably perceived as a success. And I certainly have heard that, but I don't have any metrics for you, unfortunately. Sorry.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much.
Oh,
Thank you.
I do have. Well, do you think I add? Okay, my colleague is here to help in case I need help.
Thank you, Commissioner Pradel. Other questions, commissioners, for the team here? All right, not seeing anything at this time. Just a few things I want to mention. First of all, thank you, Director Mitchell. I really appreciate your focus on the work and your passion for the work. That means a lot, says a lot. And I want to thank very much our partnership with United Way. This is how we can take advantage of each other's strengths, and this work we've done together is so meaningful, and I really appreciate the effort that United Way is willing to walk alongside with us in doing it. So thank you. Please communicate. I know we've got a partner here this evening, but just make sure you communicate that back to United Way. And then just for those of us sitting up here, just a reminder, these things don't come out of the blue. We come up with goals, and we come up with a strategy that we are suggested related to the goals that we come up with, but then we ask our team, to act on those goals and to come up with programs that turn our desires, into real reality for people. And sometimes I think we can be up here and we forget, this is other work that we didn't have anything to do with. We just remind ourselves that we have asked for things in the past. We've spent time together thinking about priorities, and then programs get built. And so thank you to the whole team that acts on those desires. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Mitchell.
Just in closing, I want to thank the mayor, commissioners, for making this program possible, and of course United Way, but more importantly, the Foundation for Excellence. This is another Foundation for Excellence created program that we are blessed to have in this community. And to answer Commissioner Prado's point, yeah, we are leading this. We're always trying to lead something that no one else is doing. And it's to the honor of you guys as and ladies as commissioners and the mayor, and also for the Foundation for Excellence. And hopefully we're making this community proud that we're investing these dollars back into the community to make impact on families. And we thank you as the mayor commissioner for supporting us on this initiative, because it is making a difference. So thank you.
Thank you once again. Since there's no more questions, you are excused. Thank you. And now is the opportunity for anybody who's here in the chambers to comment on this item. Is there anyone who'd like to make some comments? Once again, you'll have 3 minutes. Please state your name and whether you live in the city. Seeing no one, Commissioners, the recommended action is a motion to approve. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Hess,
Support.
supported by Vice Mayor Cooney. Any further discussion? Commissioner Decker.
Thank you, Mayor. I do agree that this is a great program that we're able to assist with when you have small businesses. So I just had a quick question regarding the reallocation of the funds. So we'll have $175,000 coming from the facade grant, and then $175,000 coming from the build out, and then FFE of $85,000. Just for clarification, these are funds that we are moving now out of these buckets to do this grant. Okay.
CO Lamb, yes?
That is correct.
Thank you. Are we depleting these funds? Or I guess I'm wondering, are we depleting them all the way down so we will not be doing facade grants?
I can have Director Mitchell come up to make sure that I'm speaking, but I do know in the program there has been some staff transition. So I know that there's been kind of work to get the businesses in the queue, but we're also at a point where we're looking to develop new relationships. But I'll certainly let Director Mitchell speak to that.
Yes, so no, we're not depleting all our funds for this program.
Okay.
We took a portion of our existing funds from those programs that you mentioned to assist with moving this program to fund the 60 businesses that was spoken about in the presentation.
Okay, thank you for that, because I feel that we're in the middle of the year, if the funds aren't getting used, and if we can use them right now to something else that's for the greater good, that we should move these funds. I just wanted to question, make sure we weren't completely depleting that fund in case, a business wanted to come and get these funds. So thank you for that, Director
Yes.
Mitchell.
Other discussion? Commissioner Pradel?
I'm just going to mention United Way, I think, is doing spectacular work. I love the fact that it's very evidence-based. There's metrics, and they're measuring their impact. And it's incredible with the growth and the expansion of the new 6-county region that momentum hasn't ceased. It seems like that you're continuing to become better and better, which is phenomenal. I know we got an email recently from Alyssa about the Alice report. I would love to have an opportunity to have that presentation for the community so we can hear about what's going on in our community. Just looking at those numbers again, 525 businesses since $4.2 million. It's incredible. That's such a huge impact for people who need it most, and it will reverberate. You think about, like, when you look at Fortune 500 companies or people who are some of the wealthiest people on the globe, how many of those iconic brands or successful CEOs or founders of companies started in their garage, started in their basement? And you imagine when you see a number like 525 or 900 people, how many of those people someday will you see an iconic logo in the heart of our city or in our community, because we're investing in people now and believing in their vision. And then lastly, I just wanted to make sure to honor the city as well, for having that vision from the start, even during COVID. It was incredible. I remember the night that we approved that emergency funding for businesses. It was getting into people's pockets before the federal government had programs available to support those businesses. And I know for a fact there are businesses here today that would not exist if that had not happened so quickly. And so I know COO Lamb, you were very integral to that work and making that happen. And Director Mitchell, you as well. it was incredible work and how quickly we worked to get those funds out there into people's pockets. And so thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Pradel. Commissioner Hess?
Just another time when we say thanks, COVID. This is just a great example of it's amazing what can happen when you don't care who gets the credit. This is collaboration and working with, not working against. We're working with each other, with our resources, putting them together, and really making a great thing happen. And I plan on supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hess. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Deputy Clerk Moss, please call the roll.
Commissioner Juarez,
Yes.
Commissioner Pradel,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cooney,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Decker,
Yes.
Commissioner Hess.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. The motion passes. Next item on the regular agenda, COO Lamb.
Item H2, approval of a contract with SWT Excavating Incorporated for fiscal year 23 DWRF Contract 1, water system improvements in the amount of $8,995,875.38. We do have Director James Baker here to provide just a brief description of the contracts, and he's going to cover both item H2 and H3, just as a brief background.
Thank you, and welcome, Director Baker.
Thank you, Your Honor, and thank you, Chief Operating Officer Lamb, City Attorney Leal, City Commission. Just real quick, these items, both H2 and H3, are related. They're references Contract 1 and Contract 2. Want to provide some background. Both of these items are part of our drinking water revolving fund loan program. It's a pot of dollars or funding opportunity that the city participates in through application. This is something that we started back in 2019, where we identified large neighborhood areas and we sought or reached out to seek state funding for those areas. So we've through that work, we were able to complete large projects in the East Side neighborhood. In 2021, we submitted for a plan to perform lead service line replacement in an area defined as North Kalamazoo. That was from Kalamazoo Ave north to Mazel, and then from the Kalamazoo River west to Nichols Road. That project area was not fully funded in the application year. That subsequent following year, we revised some of that application, and then we received $5 million in state funding to perform lead service line replacement within the North Side neighborhood, which is within that project area. This work, both Contract 1 and Contract 2, builds upon that and completes work throughout the rest of the remaining project area. So that would include Kalamazoo neighborhoods of West Douglas, some portions of Stewart, the Kalamazoo neighborhood of Fairmont, and then Kalamazoo Township neighborhoods. This work includes both lead service line replacement like we talked about and water main replacement. So there's over 3.2 miles of water main replacement in Contract 1. That includes Berkeley, Campbell, Commonwealth, Crown, Dartmouth, Pinehurst, Waverly, Wilmette, Arlington, Clarendon. And it also includes a station consolidation project where we're going to be consolidating station number 2 with Central. So we're going to pipe via large transmission from Station 2 over to Central. That will enable us to provide treatment at Central for that source water at Station 2. Also within contract number 1 is water main replacement on Lulu Street and Martin Street in the north side. And if you look back in your consent agenda, we had an easement on Martin to loop and increase fire protection in north side, where we're able to then loop via Martin from Burdick back over to Crown, I believe. Yeah, Crown. Contract 2, lead service line replacement. That's 580 lead service lines in that project area. Just want to touch on the schedule. The water main work is going to occur primarily in 2024, although we may start a street or two in 2023. The lead service line replacement work is going to start in 2023. In fact, it's going to start as soon as we can issue a notice to proceed. So it's going to take us a few weeks to, wind up the paperwork, so to speak, and get approval through the state. But that work's going to occur rather immediately. The progress of lead service line replacement is really going to hinge at this time on material availability. There's a number of brass fittings and copper pipe and so things of that nature that we're still seeing some supply chain limitations. And then I just want to remind folks that every lead service line replacement requires us to be in your home. We're on site for up to 8 hours. We need to make an appointment to do so. So you've got to let us in, and an adult has to be present when we're there doing that work. So we're going to be sending letters out to everybody in this defined project area. The letter is going to give you some specific instructions, mainly saying that SWT is going to be reaching out to coordinate and schedule that work with you. So we're really trying to encourage folks to reach out via that letter and contact SWT to start to make those appointments for lead service line replacement work. These two projects together, these two contracts together, it's $14.31 million. That is all grant. So that's a big number. And I know we like to talk about grants and funding opportunities a lot and bring that funding opportunity to Kalamazoo. This is certainly a big number. This is a great opportunity for Kalamazoo. And this was a competitive process. We competed against other water districts throughout the state of Michigan to bring these dollars back to Kalamazoo. I can take any questions on any one of the contracts, but I want to make sure I'm focusing on both of them.
Thank you, Director Baker. Vice Mayor Cooney.
Would you say that again? What was the grant and for how much was it?
So both of these projects are part of our 2023 drinking water revolving loan project plan. That plan was approved by the City Commission and submitted in 2022, so a year ago. That project plan included the lead service line replacement, the water main replacement, and that the consolidation of Station 2 into Central. That project plan, as we put together, we estimated that would be approximately $20 million of project costs. That's about the size of it. That project was awarded $10.3 million in state ARPA grant, and then over $4 million, $4 million and some change in what we call principal forgiveness. So those two sources together, about $15 million in state ARPA grant or state principal forgiveness amount. So the projects did come in a little under budget, which is relatively unique for us lately. So that was a good thing. And so with those funding sources, it appears at this time that there may not be any local share. We're still going to have to check that. We're closing all of our loan documents with Eagle. This is, a relatively frenzied process here at the moment once we get everything turned in and closed out. But it's our understanding at this time that this is going to be completely grant funded, citing both that over $10 million in state ARPA grant and the over $4 million in principal forgiveness.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hess.
Yeah, Director Baker, I'd like to thank you and your team for stepping in the ring, putting the gloves on and competing for this. Appreciate it, and we love winning here at the city. Can you refresh me without a map in front of me, where Station 2 and Station 1 are? You referred to those. Where are those?
Yeah, correct. So Central is, if you're familiar with where the Crosstown Ponds are at, it actually has a Stockbridge address. So its address is 215 Stockbridge, but it's that small portion of Stockbridge that turns north and connects to Rose Street. And it's kind of right over there by Crosstown Ponds. And then right next to Bright Eyes Brewing, there's a little brick building that sits kind of behind it. Nobody knows what it is, and that's Station 2. Station 2 was shut down a few years ago because Station 2 does not have any treatment ability and does not meet current Eagle standards for treatment technique. So that was a station that we kind of sidelined a few years ago without the ability for that station to provide treatment. Historically, that station was operated to provide fire flows and other supplement the system during peak hydraulic demands. However, as stated, without that ability for that station to meet current treatment technique standards, we had to either build and install treatment at that station or consolidate it with a nearby station. And so that's something that we've studied throughout the system. There is a report available called our Station Consolidation Plan, and you can reference that and see what stations we plan to consolidate in the future to provide larger treatment footprints and bring other stations into that treatment footprint.
Thank you, Commissioner Hess. Other questions? Commissioner Decker.
Thank you, Mayor. So I think it's wonderful with the grants. If I find something, I'm always forwarding it right along. So again, I echo. With these all being grants, I just have to ask this question for the community. Do you anticipate any water rate hikes this year?
Just want to make sure I'm understanding the question correctly.
With even though these are grants, with just the construction that's going on, will this be at any cost to the taxpayers in the city of Kalamazoo?
So yeah, great question. These projects that we have in front of you are not proposed to increase or change water rates within this year. That being said, our long-range budget plans, capital plans, and our long-range rate plan does call for rate increases in 2024 and subsequent years beyond that. So if we looked at, say, a 5-year period from 2024 through 2029, we would be anticipating rate increases in the range between 7% and 9%. That's a function of our capital program, which, this is good news, but our capital program in water, all-inclusive, is around $60 million per year, of which we target approximately $20 million per year for state and federal grant opportunities. And then we've got somewhere in the neighborhood of $25 to $35 million per year of what we consider conventional bond financing. And then of the roughly $30 million per year, we anticipate and plan to bring forward 80% of those dollars based on our capital execution rate. So there's a lot of numbers I just spat out for everybody. Certainly understand that. So just to boil it down, kind of perhaps a little bit better to understand, our capital program currently is designed for the system to finance approximately $25 million of projects every year. There's other projects that come in that are funding such as this that make that number bigger, but we're still planning to bring in about $25 million of projects per year for the overall system. And when we look at that, we look at our operational costs, and we look at everything else, we really look at something in the neighborhood of 7% to 9% every year for the next several years.
Thank you.
Other questions, Commissioner, for Director Baker at this time? Commissioner Praedel.
Hey, thanks for being here, Director Baker. You had mentioned the number of 580 service lines. I think that was for for contract one. I know when you've reported back on a number of the service lines, oftentimes, you are able to exceed your targets. Is that possible with this grant as well, that potentially we might be in a situation where potentially there could be more than 580 service lines served?
So just to clarify, the lead service lines, I believe, are in contract 2, but regardless of where they're at, I understand the question. The 580 service lines is within contract 2. Certainly we may go above or below that based on what we find in the field. We would like to come back to this contract and see if we can perform a change order to award more work under this work scope. We're certainly happy with these prices. This is great work. So that may be something we may come back to the commission on if we're successful in that. We'd have to get approval from the state as well. Another thing I did want to recognize is that this is not the only project funding source that we're performing lead service line replacement on. We still have the $1 million earmark that was awarded to us via Fred Upton's office. That work is still going to happen in City Kalamazoo. We also still have our prioritized lead service line replacement program where city crews identify homes that have tested over the action level and perform immediate lead service line replacement. So there's at least 3 projects that are going after lead service line replacement. This is certainly the biggest one. And then I also want to note that this work is going to occur, we want it to occur in 23, it's going to start in 23, but a lot of this work will also occur in 24. Then in 24, if we're successful with our DWSRF application that we submitted, we were in front of the City Commission talking about that for Edison, that Edison's program to start in 2024. So a lot of these projects are constantly overlapping each other, and then our execution for lead service line replacements just kind of, when we blow the whistle, 12/31 at 11:59 p.m. Some people celebrate New Year's. We celebrate a year of lead service line replacement. Then we add up all the different project sources of what was accomplished. And last year, that was 829 lead services were replaced last year. So we're required by the state to hit 500 per year. That's our goal, to hit at least 600 per year. Although we just want to make sure we're upfront and very transparent in that we need some assistance from procurement side of things, from supply chain. So if we don't have those materials here, it's going to be very hard for us to get that done. If that is the case, you'll see a completion perhaps lower than 500 for 2023, but greater than 500 for 2024.
Cool. And Leslie, I was going to ask you for the water service line replacement that's part of, I think that was contract 1. I think I mixed them up. But for contract 1, do you try to have those projects coincide with when you're doing non-copper line replacement? Do they kind of sync with each other when the project work is being done?
Yes, some of them do sync, and they're kind of designed out that way to enable that. Some of them don't, but a lot of them do.
Gotcha. Cool. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Pradel, any other questions for Director Baker? All right, so once again, I just really, really appreciate your attention to detail and the way you present this. I know it's not entirely connected, but I don't know if this might be a moment. Just want to mention this publication is out there, and it should be in people's mailboxes, right?
Yeah, I think we're going to come back for that.
Okay, good.
I'll look to city manager for direction on that.
We'll have an update for that. Good call.
Okay, that comes up later. Jump the gun. Okay. All right, well, thank you so much. Seeing no other questions, now is the opportunity for public comments on this item. If you would like to comment on this particular item, please come forward. You'll have 3 minutes. Please state your name and whether you live in the city. I don't see anybody coming forward. So, commissioners, the recommended action is a motion to approve. Is there a motion?
So move.
Motion made by Commissioner Juarez.
Support.
Supported by Commissioner Hess. Further discussion, commissioners? Commissioner Juarez.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a special thanks to Mr. Baker and the work he's been doing, right? It's phenomenal. Having that type of unique mind in that position and all that he oversees is amazing, right? Not just blowing smoke up the guys, but we're really fortunate to have him doing the work he's doing, right? And so I just want to thank you for that, and keep plugging away, keep doing what you're doing, man. We support you 100%, bro.
Thank you, Commissioner Juarez. Commissioner Pradel?
I just wanted to share, again, you talked about these being competitive grants that we receive. And like we did at the last meeting, we were talking about the two-way conversion. And out of competitive grant processes, they're choosing the city of Kalamazoo. They have faith in the vision and the ability to get this work done ambitiously. I think it was earlier this year, my family and I were one of the households where we got communication at the door. Had to schedule an appointment for somebody to come in. I was impressed. It blew my mind, I guess is the best way to put it, because when you think about how much time they spent on just this one household, and then you replicate that and you look at 829 households, and delivering that level of service and proactive communication and education material that comes with it was impressive. And I applaud you and your team for making that all happen. I also wanted to make sure, I feel like we'd be remiss if we didn't mention, I know you had mentioned the need of help from the procurement side, and that's probably a pretty heavy component, and so I think it's worth us all noting that as we're starting to think about the budget process and thinking about future years, that if we're going to increase the heavy lift of doing this work, we need to make sure that there's the professional staff there to make sure that we can effectively deliver on the things that we're hoping to achieve. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Pidle. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Deputy Clerk Moss, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Praedel,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cooney,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Decker,
Yes.
Commissioner Hess,
Yes.
Commissioner Juarez.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. The motion passes. COO Lamb.
Item H3, approval of a contract with SWT Excavating for fiscal year 23 DWRF Contract 2, Northside Non-Copper Service Line Replacements in the amount of $5,310,449.76.
Thank you very much. Well, I presume that we do not necessarily need to bring Director Baker back forward unless there are some particular questions here. I think you covered that fairly well. All right, then at this point, there's an opportunity for people who might be here in the chambers to comment on this item. Is there anyone that'd like to comment on this item? Seeing no one, Commissioners, the recommended motion is an action to approve. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Juarez,
Support.
supported by Vice Mayor Cooney. Further discussion, Commissioners? Seeing none, Deputy Clerk Moss, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Cooney,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Decker,
Yes.
Commissioner Hess,
Yes.
Commissioner Juarez,
Yes.
Commissioner Praedel.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. The motion passes. We now have a couple additional regular items. COO Lamb.
Formerly G1, now H4, approval of a professional service agreement with Whiteman and Associates in the amount of $386,500 to cover the remaining engineering design costs for the Kalamazoo Avenue two-way street conversion project.
Thank you, COO Lamb. Vice Mayor Cooney.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is about funding for planning for the two-way streets. Last meeting, we approved a grant for over $5 million for planning. If this was approved tonight, we will have approved almost $7 million for planning for the two-way streets. We, as a commission, have said that our main priority is reducing poverty in the city. Where is the plan for reducing poverty in the city? I see great things, individual things going on. I think what we just heard from the United Way and from our people, for Director Mitchell, that's great. But I see the statistics that just came out from Alice, and I see that we're not making any progress against poverty. We're doing as bad as we were before. And I think that before I'm going to vote for any more money for planning for two-way streets, I need to see some efforts at planning to reduce poverty in the city. I'm not saying that the city's not doing anything. We are. We're doing a lot. But there's so much resources in this city, and there are so many other things that we could do. I believe we need to develop a plan for that. Secondly, we're getting all kinds of grants for this two-way street thing. If we had a plan, maybe we could look for the grants for the things that would be reducing poverty in the city. So I just think, I believe that the main problem we have in this city is poverty. And I believe that reducing poverty, relieving poverty, getting everybody to the point where they have access to what they need to lead a fully human life won't only help those people, it will help our whole city. It will make us healthy and whole. And I want to see much more action in that area.
Thank you, Commissioner Cooney. Other discussion on this item? COO Lamb, just a little, I don't know if there's someone here who could provide a little clarification on the grant funding sources for the planning and where they come from and how we
Sure, I'll have Director
how we
Baker
were
come
able
up.
to acquire those.
Certainly have you come up and address. I've got a couple of numbers on grants, but I'm guessing off the top of your head, you're going to have it as well.
Yes, thank you, Chief Operating Officer Lamb, Mayor Anderson, Vice Mayor Cooney, City Commissioners. Just to back up a little bit, this this item G1, the recommendation is for professional design, the services for Kalamazoo Ave. In that we're actively engaged in the design of it, and so that's a little bit different from planning this kind of the big building blocks of kind of like what do we want to do. The actual design engineering is engineers actually out in the field measuring, what's the new culvert that's going to cross West Main Street, how are we going to reconstruct Michigan, what are the lane widths here, how are we going to bring electricity underground on Kalamazoo Ave. So this is a lot of really detailed work getting into kind of the line drawings that would then next step go to actual construction award. To back up again a little bit for funding for two-way streets, we've got different sources of federal dollars that are kind of coming together. You've heard us talk about the BUILD grant and some other infrastructure grants that were coming together. We were talking about it last week as well. All those together are over $18 million, nearly $19 million that we're going to be programmed towards the two-way conversions. Those funding sources have been identified for the two-way projects. So they're not open unallocated dollars, or we could reinvest those in some other planning for some of the property items. If you look on the sources and uses for this line item, there's more than half of this project amount is being covered by the drinking water or the water department, our water utility, because it also deals with a lot of water main reconstruction that we're doing in this. So this is kind of work that is well beyond that planning stage. It's really kind of at that execution stage. It's execution from an engineering standpoint, permitting standpoint, and getting ready to construct. It is not execution from actual brick and mortar going out into the street, but it's one step away from that. Just again, talk about the water utility. This is something where we've really been looking at water affordability. We've got a water affordability program that the Utility Policy Committee has approved. That's on the website. It's our goal to implement that. We're on track to implement that in 2024. We had on June 29th just submitted application for over $9 million of funding for payment assistance over the next 4 years for folks that meet ALICE criteria that have water or wastewater payments that would be in arrears. So that's a step that the water utility is making, planning. That's something that we're doing throughout our life cycle analysis, throughout our utility analysis to look into the future. So when we talk about annual rate increases, 7 to 9% to fund infrastructure, we also realize that we can't leave folks behind. We also understand that there's many members of our community in that ALICE bracket that may need some assistance. So we put together a water affordability program. We're going after every sources and uses dollars that we can to bring those dollars back to our community. So we don't know where we're at on that. We'd like to be able to come back to the commission at some future point and say, yes, we were successful, and yes, we've got payment assistance available for all of our customer base that meets ALICE criteria. So that's just some high-level points on some of the work we're doing, and then some specific action on this item, G1.
Thank you, Director Baker.
Yeah.
Questions, Vice Mayor?
Yes,
Follow
I
up?
do. You said that you have identified grants for 18 or 19 million dollars, right?
Correct.
And how much is
19 million.
Okay, and how much is the project going to cost? 30?
Well, our current estimates are about 30 million.
So where's that 11 million coming?
So there's additional, I didn't identify the CATS dollars. Those are the local transportation dollars through CATS that are also funding towards this. So I didn't include that. And then there's an additional amount of dollars that are coming towards this, which are two-way transfer dollars. So when we took ownership from MDOT back over to local control, we had about $12 million from MDOT that came forward with that. So those dollars are going to go towards this. We've got CATS dollars that are going to go towards this. I don't have those numbers in front of me to line it out, but I can share that it's our intent, and we've been moving in the direction to deliver the entire two-way projects, this $30 billion, with state and federal grants, and to not use local dollars on that. That being said, our entire streets program is completely funded by Act 51. So in 2017, we stepped away from any local contributing dollars for all streets. We've been acting since 2017 primarily or completely under state and federal grants or Act 51 dollars.
Okay. So, I mean, I think it's great what you're doing about making sure that people are getting paid, and I'm not questioning your ability or your planning. I just think that that we need to prioritize. We have better than 60% of our kids who are Black or Hispanic living in Alice families, and that's totally unacceptable. And I think we have to approach that with the same efforts that's going into this, and I don't see that.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Cooney. Other questions for staff at this point? Commissioner Decker.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Director Baker. Just a real quick question. So these funds that we're approving here, this is mainly because the engineers have determined that a few other streets need to be incorporated into this to make this all work. Is that correct? It's like Michigal and Main Street, I believe it was.
Yeah, that's a fair question. I guess let me clarify that a little bit. We awarded this design contract to Whiteman Associates last year, back in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, our current vision was to convert Kalamazoo Avenue to a two-way street all the way to Douglas, from Harrison to Douglas, essentially. We did not have a plan for traffic for Michigal at that time. Michigal was seen as something that would be converted into some other use into the future. We didn't know what that was at that time. We also didn't program within the Kalamazoo Ave design the West Main Street design. Subsequent from public interactions and public meetings, there's been a lot of focus on really utilizing Michigal as a transportation street, so that that flow of traffic would go from Kalamazoo Avenue onto Michigal, then onto West Main in a two-way functional aspect, including Douglas, to where you're able to go north and south on Douglas unrestricted from West Main, and then that entire area of Kalamazoo Avenue is repurposed. We also spent a lot of time during that community outreach of really listening to and understanding pedestrian needs. So there's a lot of design improvements that are going to go towards pedestrian needs, including some sort of traffic control at Woodward. I don't know what that is right now, but that could be a traffic signal at Woodward, or it could be a rapid flashing beacon or something to get pedestrians safely across Woodward at Kalamazoo Avenue. There's also considerable water main work that's going to have to get reconstructed within these areas. And then there's some stormwater features such as Arcadia Creek. There's a bridge. It's a culvert, but I'll refer to it as a bridge just because it's nearing the size of a bridge. That's going to get replaced, and all that design work is included in this. So this is some change in design scope. There's more work to be done from an engineering standpoint, but that wasn't the engineers controlling it. That was really our response to things that we learned from that engagement process with the community.
Thank you, Director Baker. And when you think about not having to vacate a street and still making it usable for everyone in those areas, it's a good thing, because nobody wants to vacate a street and have something taken away if the need is not there. So thank you for that.
Other questions for Director Baker at this time? Commissioner Juarez.
Do you want to figure out poverty for us?
That is certainly a very challenging issue for our community, and that's something that, we're looking through on the water utility, wastewater utility, and everything we do. We understand water affordability, and the issues with that. I will say, in terms of the Public Services Department and our scope of work, we're really focused on infrastructure, maintaining and operating existing infrastructure, and building new infrastructure for the future.
Commissioner Hess?
I think Commissioner Juarez was referring to your ability to think on your feet and critically and be able to articulate something so that we can understand that. Appreciate you. All due respect, Vice Mayor Cooney, absolutely poverty is on our list of things to do, but can this be a yes and? Can this be a yes and? And I think from what I heard from Director Baker, it is that infrastructure in itself is creating a community that actually can help heal poverty, that we need. Like, if we don't update the water infrastructure, who lives around there? Who lives around there that deals with water main breaks and sewer issues and so on. So I would like to look at this as a yes and that as new streets come along and they're updated, that it can only improve our city and improve our ability to address poverty. I don't disagree, Vice Mayor, but I do agree with the fact that this needs to get done, having driven those roads every day for the last 40 years of my life. Thank you.
Any more questions for staff at this time? Thank you, Director Baker. Seeing no more questions, now is the opportunity for public comments on this item. Is there anybody in the chambers who would like to make a comment on this particular item? Seeing no one, commissioners, the recommended action is a motion to approve. Is there such a motion?
So move.
Motion made by Commissioner Juarez.
Support.
Supported by Commissioner Decker. Discussion, commissioners. Vice Mayor Cooney.
I think that Kalamazoo could be a national model for reducing poverty. I think we have the ingredients in this city, and I would like to see us put as much resources as we can into that to make that happen. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, I agree with you, Vice Mayor Cooney. As far as any discussion on this, I was contacted recently by the U.S. Conference of Mayors. I think it was RAISE grants in particular that they were following up with us. And there were some questions about talk to us about how Kalamazoo is being so successful in getting these very large awards. And obviously a lot of this work is tied to IK 2025 and the non-motorized transportation and the placemaking and trying to keep our city safe and vibrant and that sort of thing. And it is not often the U.S. Conference of Mayors reaches out and asks, I felt a little overwhelmed by it, asked for a presentation from the mayor on how is Kalamazoo pulling this off, basically, and getting all this additional outside funding. And I immediately deferred to staff and said, well, hey, I've got some great staff people who would probably be better at making that presentation. Said, well, no, this is the Conference of Mayors. The mayor needs to talk about it. So I'm going to get a chance to participate in that. But I also agree that we have some momentum here. We're bringing in some resources, but that we need to continue to have a very focused intensity, perhaps more focused intensity than we currently have, and seek perhaps another category of resources that could go, more directly towards exactly what we're talking about. Obviously, this category is tied very specifically to infrastructure projects, but
Yeah,
Vice Mayor Cooney.
I think it could be a both and, but I would like to see a lot more effort into planning how we're going to do this, how we're going to step forward into making this happen.
Thanks again, Vice Mayor. Any other discussion on the topic? Vice Mayor, Commissioner Hess.
Really briefly, I recall the last time former Mayor Hopewell did a State of the City address, I believe it was in 2018. It was before the exchange was finished. And I don't know if anyone was there, but he talked about, and I hadn't thought of it in this way before, but he talked about we are a city that is cut in half by 2 highways. And that really has a lot to do with the way that people engage with the city, with downtown, with the neighborhoods north and east of the city. So it made me think of these highways in a different way, and that they do need now to be 2 ways in order for the city to be functional and a place where people can have reach IK 2025 values. So that's what I think.
Thank you, Commissioner Hess. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Deputy Clerk Moss, please call the roll.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Decker.
Yes.
Commissioner Hess.
Yes.
Commissioner Juarez.
Yes.
Commissioner Praedel.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cooney.
No.
Thank you, Commissioners. The recommended action is approved. Another item now on our regular agenda, COO Lamb.
Yes, formerly item G9, and now I think we're at H5. Acceptance of a grant in the amount of $204,500 from the Recycling Partnership Incorporated to improve educational materials and participation in the city's residential recycling program.
Thank you very much. I know that Director Baker here can answer some questions about an individual who asked for this to be moved, does not happen to be in the chambers, but Commissioners, do you desire to have some comments from Director Baker on this particular item that was on the consent agenda? Commissioner Decker.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have to say it's great they're receiving funds to help recycle within the city of Kalamazoo, because we have a lot of things going on. I mean, I try to recycle all the time, and maybe more education, Director Baker, would be great for me, because I did get one of those little nasty grams. I put the wrong stuff in the recycling bin. And since then, I have not. So I just want to say I appreciate that. And, the education is key.
Director Baker, would you like to make a couple comments?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you for allowing me to come up and address the commission on this item. Thank you, Chief Operating Officer Lamb, City Attorney Leal, Vice Mayor, City Commissions. So if we remember back to 2022, we received a grant that focused on residential recycling. And really the focus was to increase education and to decrease what we call our contamination rate. So we've got about 16,911 active participating households that are recycling. That's a great statistic. That's a great number. We're currently recycling about 2,600 tons a year. Again, that's a great number. And we're operating about 10% inbound contamination rate. That's not too bad of a number in comparison to other communities, but that's something we want to increase. Decrease. If we decrease inbound contamination, we can increase our tons recycled. And so contamination can occur through a number, any mistake, maybe unknown, you don't know what to recycle, what you can recycle that can cause contamination. There may also be intentional acts that are causing contamination. Contamination is a concern for us because while there are some forms of contamination that can kind of move with the truck and then just get set aside later, there are forms of contamination that can contaminate an entire truck. And so when that happens, that entire truck has to be diverted to the landfill. And so it's important from an education standpoint to recognize that the single stream recycling is not a replacement for garbage. There are some pretty unique rules that have to get followed of how everything's got to go in. And we spent a lot of time last year focusing on our residential units. And thank you, Commissioner Decker, for participating in that. Sounds like you might have got a oops tag that then works to help correct whatever went wrong so that we can increase that in the future. And so that same process, it's a really great process, is going to get rolled out to our multifamily units. So this is moving to a little bit different units, higher density, and a little bit different communication strategy. The oops tag, we might not know who to give it to. So there's going to be some really some one-on-one work with multi-dwelling units to really focus on increasing those recycling rates through education and reduction in contamination. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Baker. Questions? Any questions for Director Baker? Thank you, sir. Once again, opportunity to make any comments. If there's anybody in the chambers that wants to comment on this item, please come forward. Seeing no one, Commissioners, the recommended action is a motion to approve. Is there a motion?
So moved. Support.
Motion made by Commissioner Hess, all right, and supported by Commissioner Decker. Any further discussion, Commissioners? Seeing none, Deputy Clerk Moss, please call the roll.
Commissioner Decker.
Yes.
Commissioner Hess.
Yes.
Commissioner Juarez.
Yes.
Commissioner Praedel.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cooney.
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. Thank you, Commissioners. The motion passes. Deputy City Manager, I think, do you have a report?
We do. Apparently it's the Director James Baker show tonight. I know you guys missed him. I'm going to have him come right back up. You get too comfortable in his chair there. I don't know, many of you that live in the city may have gotten your water quality report in the mail just this last week. He's going to give us just a little bit of an update on the report and just some context for us. Thank you, Director Baker.
Good to see you, Director Baker.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you, Chief Operating Officer Lamb, Mayor Anderson, Vice Mayor, City Commissioners, City Attorney. So these water quality reports went out to our entire system, and that includes the city and 11, the city and 10 other jurisdictions. So there's 11 total jurisdictions or governmental units that residents receive these. And this is an annual report we put out every year. Comes out July of every year for the previous year. So what you have in front of you in July today of 2023 covers all of 2022. And next year in July of 2024, we'll issue a report for all of 2023. And so this is a really great resource just to have at home to talk through with your families. We encourage folks to save it, put it wherever you put things and tune into it from time to time. This is similar in scope and breadth as View from the Curb, as in that View from the Curb has got a lot of resources that you'll access, from time to time over the year and throughout the seasons. And just kind of go through this report. We've got data about our system. We've got discussion about how we protect our water through wellhead protection ordinances. Those talk about chapters 30, chapter 29, and we also have QR codes. You can get in there and get some more information. We talk about different programs that we've got, backflow prevention, those things. Talk about well retention programs. There's all sorts of real in-depth information about why we do something or what something is. Maybe folks have questions about boil water advisories and why are we doing those, or where can I find more information about that? That's all within this document. We also turn kind of to the center where the staples are, the fold. This is the data, and you can spend a whole lot of time on this. This is a lot of great information. So everything from where we're at with our lead and copper program, in terms of, we were between a 7 and an 8 for our 15 percentile. The current limit is 15. That's going to drop to 12. And, so that's really, some of the very important work of why we're doing this work, why we're doing lead service line replacements, why we're moving to optimize corrosion control so that we can continue to reduce these numbers here in front of you. And something that folks would get some satisfaction in understanding and knowing is that our lead program in Kalamazoo is continuous. We sample from January to July, and from July to December, and then from January to July, and then July to December. It doesn't stop. It's continuous. And so we're always reporting those values. And that's why there's two values there. That's where you see the 7 and 8. We also have PFAS in 2020. The state of Michigan, under law, MCL, maximum contaminant level, set limits for PFAS. And so we've got a table here that shows what the MCL is, what the limit is, and where we perform, where Kalamazoo is at. And there's been a lot of talk in the media, if it's something you pay attention to. At the federal level, the EPA has just issued new federal levels for PFAS. We, by our numbers here, we look like we would meet those when they come out. Those have to be promulgated under Michigan law, so that's the next step that we're going to have to take. But one item to note with that is that the new federal guidelines for PFAS recognize a health-based advisory, interim health advisory level that's essentially zero. And so with that, that is something we refer to as goal zero for PFAS. And we're working towards that. We meet all standards today under Michigan law. We'll likely meet all standards under federal law, but we're recognizing that the future goal, where do we want to be with PFAS, is zero. And there's work that we're doing to get there. We talked about station consolidation. That's going to help us reduce our footprint, reduce our exposure where PFAS can potentially enter our system. We're also in a capital improvement plan. We've got $19 million scheduled for station number 5 replacement to include iron removal, manganese removal, and PFAS removal. Station 5 is programmed to begin construction in 2024, and that project's programmed to last 3 years. Once complete, Station 5 can act as a baseload station to provide water in the east side of our districts and potentially booster bleed that into other districts as well. Continuing to kind of flip through it, we have got more definitions, more data about water, and then if you turn to this page, it says important information about your water. We've got something highlighting that says monitoring requirements not met for the city of Kalamazoo. And then we've got a table there. So I wanted to talk about that for a moment. We had 3 occurrences where we inadvertently missed the sampling, collection, or analysis date for some point of entry contaminants. So we missed the collection date by 4 days for water quality parameters at a few of our stations. We subsequently, within that 4-day window, resampled everything, and everything was normal and within range. We also had an occurrence where we had inadvertently missed a nitrate sample. That was one of many samples that we collected at one of our stations, and we resampled, and everything was within range. We also inadvertently missed a sample collection date for PFAS at a few of our stations. That was then resampled. All the PFAS parameters were all within range. So, want to note that there were a number of contributing factors to those, inadvertently missing those sampling dates. That has all been corrected. That is something that we've worked through with our contract labs, with our own staff, and this all occurred in 2022. We learned about this kind of through subsequently similar to like an audit process, where throughout the first quarter of 2021, we received notification from Eagle on where we stood with some of these things, and that's typical for water systems. So certainly this is not anything folks want to wake up in the morning and see, but I want to reassure everyone that none of these are public health issues. These were missed sampling occurrences. All the samples were resampled. Everything was within range. Everything was determined to be normal. I do want to make sure I disclose to the City Commission that everyone is aware that for inadvertently missing those PFAS samples, and even though we retested and everything, and even though we're fully compliant with Michigan MCL, we are fined $10,000 as a water system. So that's something that we're working through with Eagle right now, but that's something that want to make sure the Commission is aware of that. And these are, again, great programs that families can have and access throughout the year, and I'd be happy to answer any questions on any of the document, any of our sample collection, missed sampling frequencies, or any of the information within this packet.
Thank you very much, Director Baker. Questions for Director Baker about this report? Or Commissioner Hess? Oh, Commissioner Decker.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Director Baker. I just want to ask real quick, will we be setting up time again to do our walks to reach as many homes that still have the lead lines, and also I think it's about 4,500 that still are undefined that I saw? I'm just hoping that, you're going to set that back up, even if it's just a few times. I would love to be able to do that again and get back out in the community.
So, no, that's a great question. We continue to support those. We distributed over 7,500 filters last year in 2022. And so we continue to support those. We continue to send those families replacement filter cartridges. So at this time, based on the numbers, although there's 4,500 unknown and some, I think 1,600 lead, so you combine something like 6,100, we call it non-copper services out there. Those families should still have the filters that we provided last year. That being said, anybody can call anytime to 311 and request a filter, and we'd be happy to provide them. In addition to that, any family that goes through a lead service line replacement will get issued a filter and advised to stay on that filter for 45 days following our filter replacement. So we are doing that work. We don't have plans this year to go door to door to distribute filters again. And if somebody doesn't have their filter, they lost their filter's damaged, please give us a call, 311 or 337-8000 outside the city limits, and we'd be more than happy to provide a filter.
Thank you for that, because I do know we have a National Night Out coming out pretty soon here. And I know a lot of the neighborhood organizations or neighborhood associations will usually have, city input, city team members there to talk about some of those things. So just a thought, like if you are going to one of those events, to kind of have some information out there too, I think that'd be great.
Certainly, we plan to be there and we'll have filters.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Decker. Other questions for Director Baker? Commissioner Juarez?
Go ahead. So with those fines for missing the testing, is that per test you miss, you get fined, or is it all together?
So that's all together. The law that, as we understand it, requires that the fine to be issued if we miss a sampling event, and so that $10,000 is just the one event, just the $10,000 for the PFAS samples that were missed. So it's the single $10,000 amount, and it's really related to the PFAS samples.
And what are you doing to kind of right that ship? Like, what are the measurements you're taking now to make sure you're not going to miss any of those?
Yeah, that's a great question, certainly. So we looked at, we learned of these events, kind of like you would through an audit finding. So, we didn't know right away. Some of them we did, and so some of them we found out kind of later as data and information goes in, and then the results come back. We analyze well over 3,000 samples a year. So, having a few missed is, certainly I'm not accepting that, but it's not out of the norm for a water system to have something like this. Some of these events were attributed to our contract laboratories that we send information to, where information went off to them, but they did not do the work that was assigned. Some of that was human factors, where individuals may have missed checking a box. So when we get a sample, we go out, we collect the sample, and we have what's called a chain of custody, and we write on that what the sample is, where it came from, time and date, and then what analysis we need performed, and so we check the box on that. So there was some human error in that we didn't check the box, say for a nitrate sample. So we worked with our contractual labs to give them our full, what we call sampling schedule from Eagle, to say, look, this is all the stuff that Eagle says we have to do. If you get a sample from us and we didn't check the box to do something, cross-reference that. If Eagle says we have to, we've got to do it. So give us a call or run it anyway. There's also crew resource management challenges or errors that were made in terms of there is some complexity in that if a station runs, we have 13 stations. And so we have a schedule of a station has to get sampled every 2 weeks, whether it runs or doesn't run. If it does run, it has to get sampled immediately. So if the station runs, even for 15 minutes because there was a fire, we've got to go out and we've got to sample it. And if it doesn't run, we've got to go fire it up and sample it. So there's some management that had to occur with that. And that's a relatively new process for us that historically has not been the way we've operated, but that's the way we are required to operate now, and that's the way we're managing our staff to operate now.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hess.
Sure, thank you, Mayor. I did see those reports that Kalamazoo has PFAS, and I'm glad that you addressed that, because when I read that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just got this in the mail. I mean, I went to read the whole thing, and this is a valuable piece. I remember when we used to just get a little trifold flyer telling us about the numbers in it. This is an educational piece. This is a textbook. This is awesome. And I would encourage everyone in the city to get it or read it. Is this online as well?
It is online as well, and it is available, and it should, this goes out to every service address. So if you are a water customer of ours, even if, you know, there's a different taxpayer that's paying the bill, the service address, it goes to every service address. And in terms of apartments and multi-dwelling units, we go with cases of these pamphlets, and we ask for assistance to make sure every unit gets one of these reports.
Absolutely. This is important, and it tells you who to call and where to go. And communication, though, is two-way. We can put it out, but people have to read it. And if they don't read it, they better darn well recycle it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. Once again, Director Baker. COO Lamb.
Just one more quick update. There's been a couple of different conversations up here about employee appreciation, and I appreciate you bringing that up. Wanted to give you a little bit of an update. Last fall, we did a survey of our staff to really understand, you know, how valued do they feel and what things might we work on that would help them feel more valued. We also took volunteers for people who were interested in working on employee appreciation, and we've now assembled a team of about 20 staff at various departments and various levels throughout the organization, being led by our very capable 3-in-1 manager, Mimi Leek. We've done some initial brainstorming, and in addition to planning the fall event, which is, you know, always been very popular, this team is very interested in having consistent and sustained appreciation that they have a chance to shape. And so, number one, I know you're very interested in having people come before you all. They'll be suggesting some names and some teams we can acknowledge while they work on a more formal program, but they seem very excited, very capable, up to the task. We know we have great people working for us. They need to feel that every day. And so I look forward to bringing more updates for you, as well as some opportunities to acknowledge our amazing staff.
Thank you so much, COO Lamb. I appreciate that. So now we are at the point in our agenda for commissioner comments. Is there anybody who'd like to start this evening? Commissioner Decker.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to make one point. I forgot to say this on our regular agenda items H2 and H3. Just because this is a public document, I just want to make sure we're having the money right. Within the agenda report, it looks like it would read 10,389. I just want to make sure that reads to 10 million. Just that little decimal point in both number 1 and number 2. I did also want to talk about something that the commission approved back in December of 2022, and it references the drop ordinance. And what that does is it allows someone within KDPS to stay within their employment if they do not wish to retire. And I want to thank DC Huber for continuing to work with the city of Kalamazoo and here in KDPS. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was we just approved a resolution for Brownfield Plan for 215 East Michigan. I remember when we talked about that back in September. That was our first hearing that we had, and I was kind of wondering what was going to transpire. after talking or having TreyStar come and present with us at the Brownfield. It really is a good thing that we have a brownfield here in the city of Kalamazoo because that helps projects like this move forward. I'm kind of excited to see what's going to happen with a building that's been sat for 10 years vacant. What they're able to do is they're going to bring the building back into compliance, they're going to keep it from crumbling, and they're going to keep as most of the original architecture as possible. And again, this is the first for the city. It was the first Oprah that we passed within the city, so I'm kind of excited to see what that's going to look like. And I just wanted to say that, thank you for the CPED team for working on that, all city team members. And this is kind of why I feel that sometimes governments have the pilots and the NEZ zones, the Oprah districts and the brownfields to really get things moving in the city, because I think without a lot of these pilots and without a lot of these programs and say TIFs, I do believe that a lot of development would not be able to move forward. And I appreciate TreyStar for going out there and bringing the Oprah conversation to the city of Kalamazoo. So, we can take a look, kind of sit back, see what happens, see what comes out of that. Restaurant, undefined, office space, meeting space, venue space, maybe even some apartments. We don't really know what's going to happen up there yet. But I'm just kind of excited to see how they're going to use the funds regarding the Oprah, regarding the Brownfield funds, and what they put into it to maybe let this be a catalyst for another organization to come in and see what building that we could find that would fit into the Oprah qualifications. And I'm excited about National Night Out, very excited about that. And I hope everyone had a happy and safe 4th.
Thank you, Commissioner Decker. Other comments, Commissioners? Commissioner Juarez.
Yes. A few weeks ago, Chief Boyson and Assistant Chief Jude called an emergency meeting to bring leaders in the community who've been working on gun violence to the table to discuss some action plans. And what came out of that meeting was a couple of different things. One action plan was to get support and resources to parents whose children have come across a list of, these youth who have 2 or more police contacts within 30 days, right? And who have some kind of background or some kind of case that's open with, that has to do with gun violence, right? Another action plan that came out of that was behind the wall. So visiting the jail and the juvenile. And so these committees were formed, and today we actually had the opportunity to, there's about 6 teams that went out and hand-delivered these letters to mothers and parents to offer these resources. I had the opportunity to be partnered with CPO Casey Crooks. Really amazing person. She just, was really passionate about doing this, and building relationships with people was something that she really desired. We had about 10 to 11 different houses we had to visit. Each team had that. And we made contact with most of the people that were on our list. And a lot of these mothers were in support. Now, the flip side of that coin, there was a few people who weren't. And so I just wanted to share that because there's some work being done, some preventative measures that are taking place right now to combat gun violence, right? We have Alejandro at Urban Alliance that's working on the youth-led marches against gun violence, and then the life camps where it's a lot of educational stuff, gun safety, presentations from the chief and other individuals, and so that's happening. We have stuff that's happening this summer with, last year we did 3 different rallies, resource rallies for gun violence, and we're gonna continue to start doing those very soon. And so I wanted to share that because there's work that's happening and that it's unseen, right? The men and women who are caring about our community, who are going out and taking the time to put their efforts to work. I just wanted to appreciate the individuals who were in that room, like Yafencio Harris, like Wendy Fields, Michael Monroe. There was a couple other people, but just Michael Wilder. And just to see that collaboration and that partnership take place, the presentation to the parents was that this is a community-led effort. It's not the police department knocking on your door and trying to hassle you or, preach to you about what your kid's doing. It's a community-led effort that helps us prevent what the data is showing with at-risk youth, right? And so that was really significant when it comes to gun violence. And I'm really, really just proud of the work that the police department is doing and the community in stepping up and actually doing more than what, just talking and having meetings. And so I just want to give a shout out to individuals who are working on this stuff, like Jen Hamos at the foundation. She's doing a phenomenal job at looking how to play her part, right? And the blueprint for peace, right? You think about Charlay Davis and how she's trying to support individuals and create, equitable opportunities for people working on gun violence. And so I wanted to share that because it's super important work that's being done, that's unseen. And at the same time, there's much more to be done, right? And so that's really, really just awesome to see. Yeah. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Juarez. I appreciate all your efforts there and making sure that we all know and are up to date on exactly what's happening. So thank you. Commissioner Prado.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Wanted to be sure to, again, welcome our new city attorney. Thank you for choosing City Kalamazoo as much as we had a chance to choose you to be a part of our team. We're glad you're here. Glad you're one of the newest members of our community. And thank you for being here. Also wanted to take a moment to just, celebrate something that's been advocated for decades. So we had the announcement recently about some appropriations that were achieved for the community. And one of them may not look outwardly like it's benefiting the city of Kalamazoo, but we received $20 million, which is best described as a transformational commitment to our community to work on the US 131 business loop. And I'm going to explain a couple reasons why this is a big deal. Even though this, may not geographically be all through, the city of Kalamazoo, this is going to have serious ramifications on our residents, and including cutting down on truck traffic and emissions, thus improving air quality, predominantly on our north side neighborhood, slowing traffic and improving safety. And as part of this, greater grand plan of really improving our entire traffic network to be more thoughtful about non-motorized, improving safety, slowing down traffic, this is integral to that equation, and it's impacting our residents. And to be, with all due respect, for people not to recognize that that was a heavy lift for us as a community to say, hey, this might not be directly, written to the city of Kalamazoo, but it's going to impact our people, and it's going to impact this region, is powerful. So I wanted to make sure to thank our local delegation, especially Senator Sean McCann, Representative Julie Rogers, Representative Christine Morse, particularly for advocating for this work and recognizing that this is a big, big win for the city of Kalamazoo, and we should celebrate that. Wanted to also take a minute just to recognize a point that Director Baker made earlier about, in 2022, replacing 829 lead service lines. A couple things that kind of stood out to me when he shares that number. The state requires 500 replacements. We had a goal of 600 replacements. We knocked it out of the park and replaced 829. And again, that's an incredibly heavy lift. You saw in the booklet that Director Baker presented on as well, one of the really neat things is that if somebody is concerned and wants to have their particular household tested with concern about elevated levels, they can call 311 if they live in the city, or they can call 269-337-8550 to ask to have lead sampling done in their household. And the neat thing is if there is evidence of elevated lead testing, they will get kind of move to the front of the line, if you will, to get special replacement and resources for their household. So that is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Pradel. Commissioner Hess?
Thank you, Mayor. A few things. Again, I will also welcome Attorney Liao. I get to sit with him and, pass notes and things. I want to give my sincere sympathies and as well as from the commission to Commissioner Hoffman and her family who've had a loss. And her father's memorial service is tomorrow, so she was at home preparing for that. And my heart goes out to you and your family, Commissioner Hoffman. And let's see, I appreciate you, Commissioner Pradel, for bringing up the $20 million for the city of Kalamazoo. I know how excited our delegation was from the state to be able to get that money for Kalamazoo and for what we do. And speaking of driving on the north side, I was driving on North Street on Monday. I heard jazz. I heard music coming from the street. And it was at Allen Chapel. Allen Chapel received one of the KidNet grants for this summer to create a jazz and art festival or education on Mondays and Wednesdays, and they sit outside and play their instruments. And honestly, on Monday and Wednesday, go by, those kids are awesome. And they make food, and it's so good. So it smells good there, it sounds good there. I really appreciate Pastor Southern and his folks at Allen Chapel for doing all that with the youth and keeping them busy and encouraged and committed during the summertime. I also was able to speak with folks from the Peace House who also got a wonderful grant from KidNet through the city of Kalamazoo. And they are ecstatic about the outreach and the education they can provide to the children and the families they serve there on the east side. It helps decrease the summer melt and helps children stay involved in being curious and looking at educational opportunities. So those are just two. There were 30 grants given out by KidNet, and I appreciate them doing this. And on July 20th in Bronson Park from 11 to 1, there will be a celebration of the summer education programs. So please join us in Bronson Park on the 20th. I want to thank Yufencio Harris for coming and talking about keeping the faith and interfaith. I plan to be there, and I will be hitting up some of my friends to ask for some sponsorships. I did want to bring up, I don't know, COO Lamb or Mayor, what we can do with some of our commission dollars to be able to support that. I don't know how we do that quickly and have that turnaround, but I would like for us to look into that. Big picture, the big issues of gun violence, we're doing things here to address it. But the big issues, we've seen so many reports of gun violence throughout the country in the last week. Housing, homelessness, poverty. Those are at the big level federal issues, right? So we do, and I feel like as a commissioner, we need to control what we can as a municipality. And tonight, the Director Baker show, he was able to tell us what we're doing locally to really affect the lives of people that live here. So the infrastructure, our roads, our water, our sewer, all of our public services folks, keeping the snow off in the summer and getting our leaves in the fall, and on all of the things that we can control. Public safety, you talked about public safety. Chief Boyson, welcome home from your vacation, and the work that you're doing for the community, for this municipality, for community policing is exemplary. Also then, providing water and wastewater system to our constituents is key. And then providing free and fair elections, Clerk Moss, Deputy Clerk Moss, and all of the folks in the clerk's office, thank you so much for doing that. That's what we can do. That's what we have to do at the local level. And then also with zoning and development that we heard from Director Mitchell this evening about the things we're doing. We're collaborating with folks to get resources into the hands of people who need it. So in my opinion, I think our staff is doing a wonderful job. of representing and doing the great things every day that makes the people, the lives of the people better. And I'm grateful for them as we talk about appreciation of our city staff. All of you who are here tonight, thank you. And all of you, and you supervise so many, thanks to them for doing the work of the city.
Thank you, Commissioner Hess. Vice Mayor Cooney, okay.
No, I said nothing.
Okay, I appreciate that. So here we are. Sometimes we're actually getting a little early. Our last couple of meetings have gone well into the next day, and this evening we're not. So I appreciate that, even though I love spending time with you. I'm reminded once again, and just as something I always appreciate is that there is so much to do, and everybody sitting up here does so much other than just sitting up here and all the things we care about. And I look forward to further serious discussions about efforts that we can make, Vice Mayor Cooney, and I appreciate you lifting that up here. It is certainly, a serious issue for the city of Kalamazoo. It's hard, to be in a situation where we have been over the last few months here with gun violence in Kalamazoo. And I know that almost whenever I hear a siren, and I'm sure people share this experience, the hair goes up a little bit on the back of your neck. What's gone on? Is somebody hurt? What's happened here in this city that we love? And those efforts are hand in hand, aren't they, in terms of addressing that issue and the lives that people are living. So I think we're just going to be resolute in our continued commitment to that and looking for new good ideas and grant opportunities. And I know that staff are supportive of all those efforts. Just lastly, I want to say it's just great to have you on the team. And I'm so grateful that you have agreed to come here and share this time with us here in Kalamazoo. So I appreciate that very much. And our thoughts and prayers do go out to Commissioner Hoffman, and I know that she will be back, but this is a time of big loss for her family. I love you, Kalamazoo. We're adjourned.